My son told me his wife wasn't comfortable having me stay with them. I had just lost everything. My business, the clothing boutique I had built over 23 years, had collapsed overnight. A supplier had defrauded me, taking $340,000 in payments for inventory that never arrived. By the time I realized what had happened, my accounts were empty, my creditors were calling, and the bank was foreclosing on my house. In 24 hours, I went from a successful businesswoman to a woman with nothing but her car and a suitcase. I drove to my son Derek's house because I had nowhere else to go. He lived in a beautiful home in the suburbs, a home I had helped him buy, providing the down payment 5 years ago when he and his wife Stephanie were just starting out. I had never asked for that money back. I had never expected anything in return. I just needed a place to sleep for a few days while I figured out my next steps. Derek answered the door with a look I had never seen on his face before. Discomfort? Embarrassment? Something close to shame. "Mom, this isn't a good time." "Derek, please. I just need a few days. A week at most, until I can find a place to stay." "I want to help, I do, but..." He glanced over his shoulder toward the interior of the house, where I could hear Stephanie's voice, sharp and impatient. "My wife isn't comfortable having you here." "Not comfortable?" "Derek, I'm your mother. I'm not asking to move in permanently. I just need..." "I'm sorry, Mom. I really am. But Stephanie says it's not a good idea. We have our routine, and the kids have school, and the kids are my grandchildren. I haven't seen them in 3 months because you've been too busy to visit." Derek's face hardened. "That's not fair." "None of this is fair, Derek. I lost everything today. Everything I spent 23 years building, and I'm asking my only son for a place to sleep, and you're telling me your wife isn't comfortable? It's complicated." "It's not complicated. You're choosing her comfort over your mother's survival." "That's dramatic." "I'm going to be sleeping in my car tonight, Derek. How is that dramatic?" He had nothing to say, no solution to offer, no room in his beautiful home, the home I had helped him buy, for the mother who had raised him alone, sacrificed everything for him, loved him more than life itself. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said again, and he closed the door. "My name is Vivienne Okafor. I am 63 years old. I was born in Owerri, Nigeria, and I came to America at 24 with $200 and a dream of building something that mattered. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through business school. I saved every penny until I could open my first boutique, a tiny shop in a strip mall that sold African-inspired clothing and accessories. I grew that shop into a chain of 5 locations across Georgia, employing over 40 people, serving thousands of customers. For 23 years, that business was my life, and in 24 hours, it was gone. The fraud was sophisticated. A supplier I had worked with for years, or so I thought, had been taken over by criminals using the same name, same contacts, same everything. By the time the real supplier contacted me to ask why I had stopped ordering, I had already sent $340,000 to accounts that had been emptied and closed. The police said there was nothing they could do. The bank said they needed payment by the end of the month. My lawyer said I should consider bankruptcy, and my son said his wife wasn't comfortable. That night, I parked my car in a lot behind a church. I couldn't afford a hotel. What little money I had left needed to last until I could find a solution. So I reclined my seat, wrapped myself in the coat I had grabbed from my closet, and tried to sleep. I was 63 years old. I had worked my entire life. And I was sleeping in my car like I was 24 again, fresh off the plane with nothing but hope. Only this time, I didn't have hope. I just had a broken heart and a son who wouldn't open his door. The call came at 7:23 a.m. I was half asleep, stiff from the uncomfortable position, cold despite my coat. My phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mrs. Vivienne Okafor?" The voice was formal, British accent, precise. "Yes, this is she." "My name is Charles Pemberton. I am the personal butler to Mr. Emmanuel Adeyemi. Mr. Adeyemi has requested your presence at his estate this morning. He wishes to see you before he signs his will." I sat up, completely confused. Emmanuel Adeyemi. I don't know anyone by that name. "Mr. Adeyemi is aware that you may not remember him. However, he was quite insistent that you be contacted. He is not well, Mrs. Okafor. The doctors have given him only a few days. He wished to see you before the end." "I'm sorry, but there must be some mistake. I don't know any billionaires. I'm a businesswoman. Was a businesswoman. I owned clothing boutiques." "There is no mistake, Mrs. Okafor. Mr. Adeyemi specifically requested you by name. He provided your current phone number, your former business address, and—" The butler paused. "He mentioned that you once gave him something that changed his life. He wishes to return the favor." My mind raced. Something I gave him? Changed his life? I had no memory of anyone named Emmanuel Adeyemi, but I also had nothing else to do, nowhere to go, no one waiting for me. "Where is the estate?" I asked. "I can send a car for you. Where are you currently located?" I looked around the church parking lot. "I'll send you my location." "Very good, Mrs. Okafor. The car will arrive within the hour." He hung up, and I sat in my car staring at my phone, wondering if I had finally lost my mind. The car was a black Rolls-Royce. It pulled into the church parking lot exactly 53 minutes after the call, as if it had been waiting nearby for my response. The driver, a young man in a formal uniform, stepped out and opened the back door for me. "Mrs. Okafor, I'm here to take you to the Adeyemi estate." I hesitated. This felt like a dream, or a scam, or both. But what did I have to lose? My business was gone. My house was gone. My son had rejected me. I had spent the night in my car. If this was a scam, they couldn't take what I didn't have. If this was a dream, at least it was better than my reality. I got in the car. The drive took 45 minutes, heading north out of Atlanta into the countryside. The roads grew narrower, the houses grew larger, until finally we turned onto a private drive marked only by a small gold plaque, Adeyemi. The estate was enormous, a mansion that seemed to grow out of the Georgia hills, all stone and glass and old money. Gardens stretched in every direction, fountains, sculptures, a helicopter pad on the side lawn. This was not the home of a wealthy man. This was the home of a king. The car stopped in front of the main entrance, and the butler, Charles Pemberton, I assumed, was waiting on the steps. He was exactly what I had imagined, tall, silver-haired, impeccably dressed in a formal suit. "Mrs. Okafor, welcome. Mr. Adeyemi is expecting you." "Can you tell me what this is about? I still don't understand why I'm here." Mr. Adeyemi preferred to explain himself. "If you'll follow me?" He led me through the mansion, past artwork that must have been worth millions, past rooms larger than my entire boutique, past staff members who nodded respectfully as we passed. Finally, we reached a set of double doors. Charles knocked softly. "Enter," came a voice from inside. Charles opened the doors and gestured for me to go in. I stepped into what appeared to be a study. Bookshelves lining the walls, a fireplace crackling softly, large windows overlooking the gardens, and in a wheelchair by the window sat an old man. He was thin, frail even, with white hair and skin that had the waxy pallor of serious illness. But his eyes were sharp, alert, and when they found mine, they lit up with recognition. "Vivienne," he said, his voice weak but warm. "You came." "Mr. Adeyemi, I'm sorry, but you don't remember me. I didn't expect you to. It was 40 years ago, and I looked very different then." He smiled. "My name wasn't Emmanuel Adeyemi. It was just Emmanuel. I was a boy of 17, sleeping on the streets of Lagos, hungry and hopeless and convinced that my life was worth nothing." My heart stopped. Lagos. 40 years ago. A boy named Emmanuel. The memory came flooding back. "The boy at the market," I whispered. "Yes." His eyes glistened. The boy at the market. 40 years ago. I was 23 years old working at my aunt's fabric stall in Lagos before I emigrated to America. It was the rainy season, and business was slow. I had spent the morning rearranging bolts of cloth, trying to make them look appealing despite the weather. And then I saw him. A boy. Maybe 16. Or 17, huddled under the awning of a closed shop across the street. He was soaking wet, thin. His clothes were rags, and he was staring at the bread vendor's cart with the desperate hunger of someone who hadn't eaten in days. I watched him for a few minutes. I saw him reach for his pockets, empty. I saw him look around, calculating whether he could steal without getting caught. I saw the resignation on his face when he realized he couldn't, and I did something that made no logical sense. I walked across the street with 2 meat pies I had bought for my lunch, and I sat down beside him. "Hungry?" I asked. He stared at me with the suspicion of someone who had learned not to trust kindness. "Why would you give me food?" "Because you need it and I have it. That seems like reason enough." "What do you want?" "Nothing. I just don't like seeing people suffer when I can help." He took the meat pies slowly, as if expecting me to snatch them back. He ate them in 3 bites each. When he was done, I handed him the money I had been saving for new shoes. "It's not much," I said, "but maybe it's enough for a few more meals, enough to get you through until you find something better." The boy stared at the money in his hands. "Why?" he asked again. "Because I was you once, young and scared and alone, and someone helped me when I needed it most. This is just passing it forward. I don't even know your name." "Vivienne Okafor. I'm Emmanuel." "Well, Emmanuel, I hope life gets better for you. I believe it will. You have good eyes that see possibilities. Don't let the world convince you that you're worthless." I stood up to leave. "Wait," he said. "I'll pay you back. Someday. I promise." I smiled. "You don't need to pay me back. Just pass it forward when you can." I walked back to my aunt's stall, and I never saw Emmanuel again, until now. "You gave me 40 naira and 2 meat pies," Emmanuel said, his voice thick with emotion. "It was enough for food for a week, long enough for me to find work at a warehouse, long enough to survive. I barely remember. I remember everything. I remember your face, your name, what you said about seeing possibilities." He leaned forward slightly. "You told me not to let the world convince me I was worthless. Those words kept me alive, Vivienne. For years, when things were hard, I heard your voice telling me I had good eyes. Emmanuel, I just gave you lunch. You gave me hope. When I had nothing else, you gave me hope." He gestured around the room. "This, all of this, started with that hope, with your 40 naira, with your belief in a stranger you had no reason to help." I sank into a chair, overwhelmed. "What happened to you?" "After you gave me that money, I worked at the warehouse for a year, saved everything I could, used it to start a small trading business, buying goods in the city, selling them in the villages. The business grew. I moved to Ghana, then to London, then to America. I invested in technology, real estate, shipping. By 50, I was a billionaire. And you remembered me? I hired investigators to find you 15 years ago. I've been watching from a distance, not interfering, just watching. I saw your boutiques grow. I was proud of you, Vivienne. You built something beautiful from nothing, just like I did. But you never contacted me. I wanted to, many times, but I was afraid you wouldn't remember me, afraid you would think I was lying, or that I wanted something." He coughed, the sound wet and painful. "But then I got sick, and I realized I didn't have much time left, and I couldn't die without you knowing what you did for me. Emmanuel, I didn't do anything. You did everything, and now I'm going to do something for you." He picked up a document from the table beside his wheelchair. "My will. I have no children, no wife, no family. I have trusted employees, good staff, but no one to leave my legacy to." He held out the document. "Except you." "Emmanuel, no, I can't accept. I have $2.3 billion, Vivienne. Properties around the world. Companies that employ thousands of people, and I'm leaving all of it to you." "That's insane." "Is it? You gave me everything I have. Without you, I would have died on the streets of Lagos at 17. Every dollar I've ever made exists because you took 10 minutes to share your lunch with a stranger." He placed the will in my lap. "This isn't charity. This is justice. This is the debt I've owed. You, for 40 years, finally paid." I was crying. I couldn't help it. Tears streaming down my face as I stared at this man, this dying billionaire, who had spent his entire life remembering a kindness I had almost forgotten. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept it. Say you'll use it to help others the way you helped me. Say you'll pass it forward just like you told me to do. Emmanuel, please, Vivienne, Let me die knowing that the woman who saved my life will be taken care of. Let me die knowing my money will go to someone who deserves it. I looked at the will in my hands. $2.3 billion. Yesterday, I had been sleeping in my car, abandoned by my own son. Today, I was holding a fortune. I accept, I whispered, but only if you let me stay with you. Until the end. You shouldn't die alone. Emmanuel smiled. I would like that very much. I stayed at the estate for 11 days. Emmanuel and I talked for hours about our lives, our journeys, our struggles and triumphs. He told me about the years of hardship after Lagos, the nights he slept under bridges, the jobs he worked for pennies, the business ventures that failed before one finally succeeded. I told him about my years in America, building my boutiques from nothing, raising Derek alone after his father left, the pride and the sacrifice and the exhaustion of doing it all without help. We laughed, we cried, we became family in a way that blood never guaranteed. On the 11th night, Emmanuel passed away peacefully in his sleep. I was holding his hand when he went. "Thank you," he whispered, his last words, "for everything." I buried him on his estate, in a garden he had designed himself, and then I became the richest woman in Georgia. The news of my inheritance spread quickly. $2.3 billion to a woman no one had ever heard of. The media wanted interviews. Investigators wanted to verify the connection. Distant relatives of Emmanuel, people who had never contacted him while he was alive, suddenly appeared with claims and lawsuits. Charles Pemberton, the butler who had served Emmanuel for 30 years, handled everything. Mr. Adeyemi anticipated challenges, he told me. His legal team has documented everything. The will is airtight. His wishes will be honored. The lawsuits were dismissed. The media eventually lost interest, and I was left with a fortune I had never imagined. The first thing I did was pay off my creditors. The $340,000 I had lost to fraud was nothing against billions. The second thing I did was buy back my boutiques. The bank had foreclosed, but the properties hadn't sold yet. I purchased them outright along with enough capital to rebuild inventory and rehire my staff. The third thing I did was establish a foundation, the Okafor Adeyemi Foundation for Fresh Starts. We provide emergency funding for small business owners who have been defrauded or faced unexpected catastrophes. We offer housing assistance for people experiencing sudden homelessness. We give grants to young entrepreneurs who have good eyes that see possibilities but lack resources. We pass it forward, just like Emmanuel wanted. Derek called 2 weeks after the news broke. "Mom, I've been trying to reach you." "I know, I've been busy. I heard about the inheritance. I can't believe, this is incredible." "It is." "Mom, about what happened before, when you came to my house. When I came to your house and you turned me away so I had to sleep in my car?" Silence. "Mom, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Stephanie was wrong. We should have let you stay." "Yes, you should have." "Can we move past this? You're my mother. I love you. And now that things are better—" "Now that I'm a billionaire, you mean?" "That's not what I meant. Isn't it? When I had nothing, your wife wasn't comfortable. When I have billions, suddenly you're calling me every day." I paused. "What changed, Derek? Did I become more lovable? Did I become more worthy of a place in your home?" "Mom, please." "I'll always be your mother. But I need you to understand something. I know now who was there for me when I had nothing, and who appeared when I had everything. I know who offered me shelter and who closed their door. I know who I can trust and who only loves me when it's convenient. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. You taught me that when you left me in a parking lot. I didn't know you slept in your car. You didn't ask. You didn't offer alternatives. You didn't do anything except close your door and go back to your comfortable life. What do you want me to do? I want you to live with the knowledge that when your mother needed you most, you chose your wife's comfort over her survival. I want you to know that every time you see me now, you'll remember that night. And I want you to think about what kind of son you want to be going forward. Mom, I'm not punishing you, Derek. I'm not cutting you off. You're still my son, and your children are still my grandchildren. But things are different now. I'm different now. And I won't pretend that what happened didn't happen. I understand. Do you? Because understanding means changing. It means being there when it's hard, not just when it's easy. It means choosing family over comfort, even when your wife disagrees. I'll do better. I hope so, for your sake, and for Emma and Lucas's sake. They're watching you, Derek. They're learning what kind of man to be, what kind of partner to choose. Make sure you're teaching them the right lessons. I hung up, and I went back to building my foundation. It's been 3 years since Emmanuel passed. The foundation has helped over 5,000 families. We've saved 847 small businesses from collapse. We've provided housing for 2,300 people facing sudden homelessness. We've passed it forward, again and again and again. Derek and I have slowly rebuilt our relationship. He divorced Stephanie, not because of what happened with me, but because he realized she brought out the worst in him. He's a better father now, more present, more thoughtful. He brings Emma and Lucas to visit me every month. He's learning, slowly, but he's learning. And me? I'm 66 years old, richer than I ever dreamed, surrounded by a legacy that will outlast me by generations. But when I think about my life, I don't think about the money. I think about a boy in Lagos 40 years ago, huddled under an awning in the rain. I think about 2 meat pies and 40 naira. I think about the words I said without thinking. Don't let the world convince you that you're worthless. I changed his life with a small act of kindness, and 40 years later, he changed mine. That's the thing about passing it forward. You never know where it will end up. You never know who will remember. You never know when a seed you plant in a stranger's heart will grow into something magnificent. Emmanuel taught me that, and now I teach it to everyone who will listen. If this story resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and whether you've ever experienced unexpected kindness returning to you. Like and subscribe for more stories about generosity, redemption, and the mysterious ways that good deeds find their way home. My wife isn't comfortable having you here. That's what my son said when I came to him with nothing. My business had collapsed. My house was gone. I needed a place to sleep for a few days. And my son, the boy I raised alone, the man I helped buy his first home, told me his wife wasn't comfortable. So I slept in my car, in a church parking lot, at 63 years old. The next morning, a butler called. A dying billionaire wanted to see me, a man I had helped 40 years ago when he was a hungry boy on the streets of Lagos, and I was a young woman with 2 meat pies and 40 naira. I gave him lunch. He gave me $2.3 billion. I gave him hope. He gave me everything. My wife isn't comfortable. Derek didn't know what he was closing his door on. And Emmanuel? Emmanuel never forgot what I opened for him.